Difficult conversations to have when you enter a second marriage. Here's that conversation.
It's common for baby boomers to find love after divorce, separation, or being widowed. But when you're partnering with someone later in life, there can be a lot to consider when it comes to protecting what you're bringing into a relationship. Joining us with more is Laura Paris, associate lawyer at Shulman Partners. Welcome to Your Morning.
Thanks for having me.
You're seeing a lot more of what are being called gray marriages. Can you define that for us?
Yeah, absolutely. So we're looking at, we're coining this term as gray marriages, being kind of those in the baby boomer generation that are getting married or finding these late life loves, later on in their lives. So whether it be after ending a long-term relationship, a long-term marriage, or maybe this is their the first relationship that they're getting into, what we're finding is that there's a lot of unique questions that you're dealing with when you're talking about someone who's getting into a relationship or a long-term relationship at a point that they're in and around retirement versus, getting into these relationships early on in life.
All right, let's dig into some of them. What should you be thinking about when you're planning to get married or live together at a later stage in life?
So what we're finding is that when people are getting into these relationships later in life, the issues that they're concerned about look a lot different than what we're seeing in people getting into relationships earlier in life. And this is mostly because when you start a relationship, when you're starting out in life, you're looking to build with that person. These late life loves, they're finding more so that it's not that they're looking to build, but actually looking to stretch and make sure that what they have and what they've been able to build for themselves is actually going to last, to be able to take care of themselves, but not only themselves, but also their children. So when we're looking at these types of relationships, and we have clients coming in and inquiring with respect to how best to not only protect themselves, but actually protect the relationship, the types of questions that we're asking to our clients is, what are your living arrangements going to be? Mm-hmm. Not all individuals who get into relationships later in life intend to live together under the same roof. They may decide to share two separate residences and then spend weekends together or summers together or whatever the case may be. So we're talking about their living arrangements. We're talking about sharing of expenses. We're thinking about inheritance. If you have children, is there a certain chunk of money that you're setting aside and you want to make sure remains protected for your children? So a lot of unique questions that we're looking at that are much different than what we look at when we're talking about contracts, whether it be a marriage contract or a cohabitation agreement for someone entering into a relationship in the first instance earlier on in their life.
Yeah, this stage of life, you're also talking about future, which could include medical decisions and what to do about pension and pension monies. In Canada, we don't call them prenups. We call them marriage contracts. Should you be looking at drawing one up if you're in one of these later stage relationships?
Absolutely. So the type of contract you need depends on what the relationship is. If you are intending to get married, then yes, you would be entering into a marriage contract. If the intention is simply to live in a relationship of permanence for an extended period of time, that would be a cohabitation agreement, as your relationship would be defined as a common law relationship.
Laura, a lot of people, when they're in the love stage, feel like it's a bit of a killjoy to have to bring up tough topics like these: long-term care, medical decisions, who gets the money, what about inheritance? How can they talk about these difficult topics in a positive way?
So the way that I look at it and the way that I pitch it to anybody who walks into our offices asking for these types of agreements is to look at it like an insurance policy. When we get car insurance, when we get home insurance, we don't get it with the intention that we're going to get into a car accident or something bad is going to happen to our home. It's a just in case. And what it does for us is it gives you the peace of mind that in the event that something, negative may happen, something bad may happen, you have that added protection. A marriage contract or a cohabitation agreement is the exact same thing. What you're doing is you are just assessing what future risk may be and finding a plan to be able to deal with it so that in the event that occurs, you have a good and smart plan so that it's not going to be, it's not going to affect you in the same manner that it would had you not had a plan in place.
Such an interesting topic and an important one too. Laura, thanks for joining us on Your Morning.
Thanks for having me.